Hey guys, here's the beginning of the interview with Christopher Proudfoot's ex-wife Nina, and this interview was done, pre-recorded, and sent to T-Rev, which is where I found it, and we reviewed it in a live, but I just wanted to give you guys an introduction to this part of the story as we study true crime, human behaviors, and missing people, children especially. Tell me what you guys think.
And she was telling me 7. So I thought everything was great in the beginning. I mean, everything's always perfect, like I said. And then I started seeing bits and pieces of how Christopher really was. I was a stay-at-home wife, due to my son being so young. I wanted to, enjoy those years with him. Then my daughter went to school right down the street, so I was home every single day. And it just started seeing like Christopher change like night and day. It was awkward. I felt really uncomfortable after a while. We would argue about just the smallest things. And a lot of it also had to do with how he disciplined my children. I'm very protective over my kids. And I didn't want somebody else to discipline my children. I didn't want him talking ugly to them, or hurting their feelings. And I remember one point in time where Christopher spanked my son really hard, and I got very upset with him, and I said, "You can't do that to my son." I said, "He's 3, he's a baby still, like you can't just do whatever you want." I mean, and he got upset, and he's like, "Well, he needs to learn, he needs to man up, he's a man." I said, "He's 3. He's 3. And as time went on, like I could see him getting more aggressive and more aggressive. And I stood up for my kids all the time. I didn't like how like I said, how he talked to them, how he wanted them to stand in the corner all the time, and I didn't like that. So I stayed a little bit longer. I ended up eventually getting pregnant with Faith. And it was probably, I want to say, maybe early September that I found out that I was pregnant with Faith. And I remember telling him that I was pregnant, and he wasn't happy about it. So I called my parents back home here in Albuquerque, and I told them the situation. And I said, "Well, Christopher wants me to get an abortion with Faith." And my parents said, "No, you're not." And I said, "I'm not." So I know he was very upset about me keeping Faith at that point in time. So I came home. My grandma had gotten very sick, and I decided to come home. And after that, I just kind of stayed here in New Mexico, because at that time we weren't getting along, and we were just like newlyweds, and that should have never happened. But I saw things, like I said, that were just it wasn't right about him. So I moved home, and I did my whole pregnancy by myself. And so I finally, my friends back there in California, my neighbors right across the street were actually calling me. I had one good friend, which is still a really good friend of mine to this day. She called me and said, Nina, Christopher's getting rid of your furniture and getting rid of your stuff. And I was like, what? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, he's giving away like your little, your home decor stuff. Like he's giving away beds. And I was like, no way. So, and this was about Easter time. So I had went out there. I made a special trip. I asked my mom to go with me, and Isabella and Noah, they went with me, and I was still pregnant with Faith at the time. So we made it. I didn't tell him that we were going out there. So I kind of, wanted to see myself, because the neighbor also informed me that there was people at the house that shouldn't have been there. So I guess I kind of wanted to sneak up on him and see what he was doing, right? And we pulled up into the driveway, into the driveway, and he was coming out the front door with a bed that he was giving to the neighbor, which was my son's bed. And the look on his face was like a deer in headlights. And he dropped the bed right there in the front yard, went back in the front door, slammed the door and locked it on my kids. And my mom told me at that point, she said, I can't believe he's doing this. Like, what is he doing? So I go in and I unlock the door and I said, what are you doing? I said, are you giving away my stuff? And he had nothing to say. So he brought the bed back in, because I knew that's what he was doing. And, the neighbor across the street, like I said, told me. So we stayed there. It was super uncomfortable. My mom felt the tension between the both of us. My children felt it as well. And at the time, Faith started moving. Like I felt her moving around in my stomach. And I told Christopher, I said, look, I said, put your hand on my stomach. I said, can you feel her move? He said, no. When you're pregnant, you always think that your spouse is going to be super supportive and be super excited that you're pregnant and bringing a life into this world for him, right? But I didn't get that. I didn't get that support that I needed. So we had a conversation my mom brought up between Christopher, myself, and her. And she had said, do you not want Faith? Like, do you not want this baby? And Christopher stated to my mom he wasn't happy. And he said, what if one of them dies? What if Faith dies or Nina dies on the table, or when she's having this baby? Like, my mom said, don't talk like that. Like, why are you talking like that? They're still here. So we left again. After a couple days, we came home to Albuquerque. And still, I tried working it out where we were at, but it just wasn't working. I wanted out.